The moment I opened my eyes, the familiar sound of TV news drifted over from the living room, mixed with soft yet deliberate footsteps outside my bedroom door. My fingertips brushed against the old desk I'd used all through my senior year of high school. Spread across its surface was a copy of my provincial first-class award certificate from the national physics competition. Its date printed clearly in the upper right corner. The 3rd day of the 5th lunar month, 2018. My heart clenched sharply. I was back to the day before the final public announcement for the recommended admission quota. This single day had rewritten the entire course of my life. In my past life, on this very day, I'd foolishly told the whole family I'd earned a nomination for direct admission to Tsinghua and Peking University, brimming with joy as I shared the fruits of years of relentless hard work. I'd thought my family would be proud of me. That blood ties held nothing but pure, warm affection. I never imagined my gentle, thoughtful elder sister Sue Ro would hatch a scheme to steal my life that very night. She never openly demanded the spot. Instead, she hovered around me the whole evening, showering me with concern, prying every detail of the admission application and every loophole in the school's review process under the guise of sisterly bond. Then she turned to our parents, bursting into tearful sobs. She claimed her grades were mediocre, that the college entrance examination hung by a thread for her, and that she would most likely end up at an ordinary second-tier university, doomed to a mediocre life forever. Our parents had always been consumed with guilt over Sue Ro, who'd been adopted as a child with a tragic background. They softened on the spot, taking turns pleading and pressuring me. They said I was naturally gifted, that even without the recommended spot, I would easily get into a top university through the national college exam. They begged me to give up the quota once, to secure a decent future for my sister. Back then, I was 18 years old, soft-hearted, naive, and deeply attached to my family. I gave in, blindly following my family's wishes. I temporarily withdrew my final review application, handing Sue Ro the perfect opening. She seized the chance to bribe a temporary teacher in charge of filing records, forged a voluntary waiver signed in my name, altered the official application documents, and brazenly took my recommended admission spot for herself. In the end, Sue Ro walked into a prestigious university with my hard-earned achievement, hailed as a child prodigy and the pride of the entire family by all our relatives. Meanwhile, I lost my shot at the direct admission, crushed by despair. I performed terribly in the college entrance exam and only got into an average first-tier university. For the rest of my life, I watched her walk around in elite university uniforms, land high-paying job offers, and live a glittering life, while I was trapped in mediocrity, scraping by to make ends meet day in and day out, drowning in unspoken grievance until I wasted away and died. Endless regret and resentment had haunted me until I was reborn here. At this moment, this time, there was no trace of softness left in my eyes, only icy calm. I knew Sue Ro's schemes inside out, and I knew all too well how biased and prone to taking the easy way out my parents were. To them, I was their biological daughter with natural talent and plenty of fallback options. So enduring a little unfairness was nothing. Sue Ro, their adopted daughter with a miserable past, deserved endless compromise and compensation. That was why, in my past life, they'd sacrificed my future without a second thought to make Sue Ro's life complete. The footsteps outside my door halted right in front of my bedroom. A soft knock came a second later, followed by a sweet voice identical to the one I remembered from my previous life, gentle enough to make my stomach turn. Wan, are you studying in your room? It was Sue Ro. I suppressed the roiling emotions in my chest, my tone flat and unchanging, just as it always used to be. Yeah. Working on practice problems. The door creaked open gently. Sue Ro stepped in carrying a mug of warm milk. Her eyes curved into a soft smile. Her long hair fell over her shoulders, and she wore clean loungewear, putting on the perfect act of an obedient, sensible girl to outsiders. She was the most caring, considerate elder sister, always thoughtful and yielding. Only I knew what greedy, venomous malice lurked beneath that innocent facade. She set the milk down beside my desk, her gaze drifting casually over the copy of my competition certificate. Her fingertips stroked the edge of the paper, her voice laced with perfectly measured admiration. Still buried in exercises. You're so amazing. Winning provincial first prize in the physics competition, your spot for the university recommendation is definitely locked down. Right. Here it came. The exact same opening line as in my past life. Carefully crafted to fish for information from me. Back then, I'd let my guard down completely and told her straight out that I was the only student in the whole school nominated for the final round of Tsinghua and Peking's direct admission. The official list would be posted the next day. And once the paperwork finished, I could skip the college exam and start university immediately. Those words had ignited her greed entirely. I lowered my eyes, pretending to sort through my exercise books, my tone cool and devoid of any emotion. I'm not sure. The school hasn't given the final notice yet. Nothing's set in stone. Sue Ro's fingers froze for a split second. A flicker of surprise darting across her eyes. She hadn't expected me to brush her off like this. She quickly masked her shock, keeping her smile and softening her tone even more. How could it be uncertain? You got provincial first place, and you're the only one in the whole school qualified. The teachers must have settled it privately already. Wan, tell your sister, so I can celebrate for you ahead of time. She pressed forward, desperate to pry out definite news. I lifted my gaze and looked at her calmly. Winning a competition award doesn't guarantee a recommendation. The review process is extremely strict, with countless comprehensive assessments. No one can be certain until the list is officially announced. I spoke vaguely on purpose, cutting off every avenue for her to dig for details. Sue Ro's smile faded a little, her eagerness impossible to hide. Yet she still maintained her gentle demeanor. I see. That's such a shame. But I know my little sister will pull through. Unlike me, I'm slow-witted with terrible grades. I don't even know which university I'll manage to get into after the college exam. The familiar pity act had begun, laying the groundwork for emotional manipulation. In my past life, hearing this would only make me feel sorry for her, consumed by guilt for being too outstanding and stealing the spotlight from her. Now, all I felt was bitter irony. I said nothing, merely flipping through my textbook. Cold and distant, seeing I wouldn't engage with her, Sue Ro lost interest. She chatted about trivial family matters for a minute more before turning to leave the bedroom. The instant she closed the door, I caught a quiet sigh, not one of disappointment, but of frustration at her failed plot. I reached out and picked up the competition certificate from the desk, my fingers tracing the gilded characters. This honor was earned through countless sleepless nights, thousands of practice papers, and endless struggles through creative blocks. This opportunity was mine, one fair and square with my own talent and blood, sweat and tears. Why should I give it away to someone else? Just because she put on a pitiful show, just because our parents favored her, just because she excelled at pretending to be wronged. I'd yielded once in my past life, and it had ruined everything for me. In this life, I would not give an inch. I grabbed my phone and opened my private chat with our head teacher. In my previous life, my family had kept me occupied, making me miss the window to confirm my filing records in advance. That was how Sue Ro had slipped through the cracks. Tonight, I would lock down every loophole before anything could go wrong. I typed each word deliberately. Teacher Zhang, good evening. This is Sue Wan, regarding the final filing for the Tsinghua and Peking University recommended admission quota. I will come to school first thing tomorrow morning to sign for confirmation in person. All official records shall be based on my in-person signature. Any third-party signature or voluntary waiver document not signed by me personally is invalid and does not reflect my true wishes. After hitting send, I turned off my phone, gathered the original certificate and all my application materials, and stuffed them into my school bag. Only after finishing all this did the tight tension coiled in my chest ease slightly. Sue Ro's deliberately aggrieved voice floated over from the living room, loud enough to drift through my bedroom door and land perfectly in our parents' ears. Mom, Dad, I'm really envious of Wan. She's so brilliant, with a bright future ahead of her. Unlike me, I'm good for nothing, and I'll only be a burden to this family later on. The same old performance, unfolding exactly as I remembered. I leaned back against my chair, My eyes frosty. Sue Rowe. Mom. Dad, you owed me everything in my past life. I will not seek revenge in this lifetime. But I will never back down again. Not even a little bit. Every scheme you've painstakingly plotted will fall apart starting tonight. Tomorrow's public announcement board will bear only my name. The life that belongs to May will guard it with my own 2 hands. The next morning, I got up an hour earlier than usual on purpose. The living room was dead silent. My parents were still asleep in their bedroom, and Sue Rowe's door remained tightly shut. Presumably, after laying the groundwork with her emotional act the night before, she'd gone to bed early, waiting eagerly for the outcome of the recommendation quota today. I knew exactly what she was thinking. She was convinced that, with my parents' favor on her side, any tiny opening in the review of my quota would let her slip in and take my place. I packed my school bag quietly, tucking inside the original copy of my competition certificate, student status certification, ID card, and all the paper documents for the university recommendation application. In my past life, I'd blindly trusted my family and left all the original papers lying around the house. Sue Rowe had secretly photographed them and forged duplicates, creating the opening she needed to cheat the system. This lifetime, I would never let the core official documents out of my sight. Before heading out, I deliberately avoided my family, leaving no note and without saying a word. I knew if Sue Rowe or my parents spotted me, they would bombard me with endless questions and block my way, using family bonds to emotionally manipulate me into staying. The streets were nearly empty in the early dawn. I hurried toward school, my mind crystal clear. The final review procedures for recommendation admission at this key municipal high school were extremely rigorous. In-person signature, facial recognition verification, and physical file archiving were the sole official standards to confirm eligibility. Any online submission or signature by a third party held no legal weight at all. In my past life, Teacher Lee, who was in charge of filing records, had accepted bribes from Sue Rowe. He'd exploited the loophole that I had not shown up for the final review, privately altered my filing information, and forged a signature claiming I'd voluntarily forfeited my spot. Today, I would seal that loophole myself. The doors to the academic affairs office had only just opened. The duty teacher was sorting documents, and the whole office stood empty save for Teacher Lee, who handled college admission and recommendation reviews. Sitting at his desk, I recognized him at once, the very man who'd tampered with my quota in my previous life. When he saw me, a flicker of surprise crossed his eyes, quickly replaced by a practiced, bland smile. Sue Wan. What brings you to school so early? Something about the recommendation quota, I suppose. I nodded calmly and laid all my documents neatly across his desk. Teacher, I'm here to complete the final eligibility confirmation signature. Could you walk me through the concluding review process? Teacher Lee's fingers faltered, and his gaze darted away for a split second. I saw right through it. Sue Rowe must have visited him ahead of time, promising him favors to make him stall my final review. She'd planned to swap out my official records with forged materials at the very last minute before the list was posted. She'd never expected me to come alone and ahead of schedule, throwing her and Teacher Lee's scheme off balance. There's no need to rush. He brushed off his fluster and waved his hand casually. The public list won't be released until noon. You can finish the paperwork this afternoon easily enough. Go back to class and come back later. It was the exact same line he'd used in my past life. Back then, I'd obeyed and left obediently, giving him ample time to manipulate the record sending with my quota stolen from under me. I met his eyes directly, my tone firm yet respectful, neither humble nor overbearing. Teacher, the official school notice clearly states the final signature can be completed in advance so long as the applicant appears in person to confirm eligibility. I have plenty of free time today. All my documents are complete and meet every review standard. So could we process it now? Every word I said was backed by official rules, leaving him no excuse to put me off. Teacher Lee's expression stiffened. The indifference in his gaze faded, replaced by wariness, staring at the full set of original documents I'd laid out without a single flaw. He could find no legitimate reason to turn me away. Reluctantly, he picked up the papers to cross-check them. He flipped through the certificate and student status records page by page, double and triple verifying my identity information. His face growing grimmer by the minute. I stood quietly beside him the entire time, watching every single one of his movements without relaxing my vigilance for a second. I knew that once I finished the in-person signature, passed the system's facial scan, and had my physical files archived that day, no one could revoke my recommendation eligibility. All of Sue Rowe's plotting would amount to nothing. 10 minutes later, all reviews and cross-checks were complete. Unwillingly, Teacher Lee pulled up the final review system. I leaned into the scanner to finish facial verification, signed my name by hand, and pressed the confirmation button. A pop-up instantly appeared on the screen. Final review approved. Records archived. No further edits permitted. The moment I read those words, the weight I'd carried all night lifted completely from my chest. At long last, I had personally secured the life that belonged to me. I gathered all my documents and glanced at Teacher Lee, whose face had turned sour. I spoke evenly. "Thank you for your trouble, teacher. The system has permanently archived my information. If anyone comes later with my documents requesting changes or a voluntary waiver of the quota, it will not be my genuine request. Please reject it outright." Teacher Lee shifted uncomfortably and forced a thin smile. "Rest assured, we follow standard official protocol. There won't be any mistakes." I did not linger a moment longer and turned to walk out of the academic affairs office. Stepping out of the administration building, the crisp morning wind brushed my cheeks. The haze that had hung over my heart for more than a decade finally lifted for the most part. I returned to my classroom and went about my morning reading and practice questions as usual, acting no differently from any ordinary day. When my classmates occasionally chatted about the recommendation quota, they all took it for granted that I was the sole candidate. I stayed entirely silent, offering no response and no hint of pride, cutting off every chance for word to spread. The morning classes ended smoothly. As noon drew near, I packed my textbooks to head home. The second I stepped out of the teaching building, I ran straight into Sue Rowe, who'd rushed over to school. She wore an elegant sundress with light makeup, carrying a bag of fruit in her hand, clearly here to curry favor with the teachers and dig up news about the results. When she spotted me walking out of the building, she froze mid-step, then hurried forward, plastering a soft smile across her face. "Wan, are you done with class? I popped by the school to pick up a few things and thought I'd stop to see you." I saw through her lie instantly, yet only replied flatly, Sue Rowe's eyes locked onto my face, trying to pick apart any trace of nervousness, anxiety, or disappointment in my expression. But I remained utterly calm. Without the slightest tell, she could not help but probe further. "By the way, the recommendation list is supposed to go up today, right? Have you heard any updates? Did the teachers call you in to talk?" "No news," I answered tonelessly, leaving her no opening to pry deeper. Confusion deepened in Sue Rowe's eyes. She refused to believe I was truly indifferent. After a few seconds of hesitation, she spoke again in a soft, deliberately aggrieved tone. Wan, I've tossed and turned all night thinking about this. I'm genuinely so envious of you. Your grades are outstanding. Bolstered by competition awards, your future stretches out bright and clear. I'm about to enter senior year and sit the college entrance exam, yet my marks never improve. I lie awake most nights, overwhelmed with panic. The same old pity play. In my past life, this speech would have softened my heart and filled me with guilt. Now, it struck me as nothing but hollow and ridiculous. I lifted my gaze to meet hers, my voice distant. The college entrance exam hinges on personal effort. Just steady your mindset. That single simple sentence shut down every layer of emotional manipulation she'd been building up. Sue Rowe was left speechless, her gentle smile nearly slipping from her face. Her knuckles whitened as she squeezed the fruit bag tight, suppressed restlessness and resentment burning beneath her surface composure. She must have sensed something was wrong. My unnatural calm was nothing like someone waiting for a life-altering result. After 2 awkward seconds of silence, she forced another smile. You're right. Little Sister V got such a level head. I'll head home first. Once the official list is posted, I'll be genuinely overjoyed for you. I gave a slight nod, offering no extra reply. Watching her hurried retreating figure, I knew she had begun to panic. All her scheming, bribes, and plotting were rendered completely void by the official paperwork I'd locked down ahead of time. I strolled slowly home, my mind serene and unclouded. I had not harmed anyone of my own accord. I had merely protected what was rightfully mine from the start. Sue Rowe's greedy attempt to steal my life without lifting a finger had been wrong from the very beginning. When I arrived home, my parents were waiting for me in the living room. The moment they saw me walk through the door, they immediately pressed me for answers. Juan, have you gotten any news about the school recommendation? Are the results out today? Before I could open my mouth, Sue Rowe hurried over, looping her arm through Mother's and murmuring softly, "Mom, I just ran into Juan at school. She said there's still no word. We'll probably have to wait a bit longer." She'd rushed to speak first to calm my parents, keeping up the pretense that the quota was still undecided so she could cling to one last window for manipulation. I looked at my family, each wrapped up in their own hidden agendas, and coldness settled deep in my chest. I set my school bag down gently and said plainly, "There's no need to wait. The outcome is finalized." Those 5 short words froze the entire atmosphere in the living room at once. Sue Rowe's body went rigid in an instant, and the flicker of desperate hope in her eyes cracked for the very first time. The moment my words faded, the air in the living room turned taut all at once. My parents both swiveled their gazes toward me, their eyes brimming with obvious anticipation mixed with a faint, subtle hint of probing. Beside them, Sue Rowe's entire body went rigid. Her fingers dug hard into the sofa fabric. Yet on the surface, she still maintained her docile, gentle demeanor. She was still gambling that I was merely speaking off the cuff, that the final review procedures hadn't been fully completed, that all the strings she'd pulled beforehand could still turn the tide in her favor. My mother Lin Hui was the first to speak, her tone artificially soft but laced with bias. "It's settled. Does that mean the spot's basically yours? Juan, don't get too worked up even if it falls through. You can still do well on the college entrance exam." Her words sounded comforting on the surface, yet they were quietly paving the way for Sue Rowe. Subconsciously, she still wanted to leave an opening. If I failed to secure the recommendation spot, she could smoothly hand it over to Sue Rowe instead. My father Su Jianming chimed in right after, his tone rigid and utilitarian. "The official school list hasn't been posted yet. Verbal confirmation means nothing. Everything hinges on the public notice board. Stay grounded and don't get carried away." Their attitudes were identical to those in my past life. They had never truly taken pride in my achievements, only habitually downplayed my success while leaving loopholes to accommodate Sue Rowe. I said calmly, "The list will be posted sharply at noon, visible to the entire school, fully public and transparent." At that, Sue Rowe's throat bobbed slightly, and the smile on her face grew strained. "That's wonderful news. You're so talented, sister. It's bound to work out. I've actually been worrying about you this whole time, hoping to see your name on the posting." The more sweet and sensible she acted, the more ironic it felt to me. She wasn't happy for me at all. She was waiting for one last twist of fate, waiting for me to make a misstep, waiting for her scheme to steal my spot to succeed. I ignored her comment and walked straight to the dining table to eat, silent and composed the whole time. Sue Rowe, however, could not stay idle. Throughout the entire meal, she kept bringing up new topics to fish for information, every sentence laced with hidden scheming. Juan, did you head to school alone this morning? I didn't see you when I woke up." I went there to study," I replied casually, revealing not a single crack in my composure. "Did you run into any teachers from the academic affairs office? Did they fill you in on the details of the review process in private?" I shot her a fleeting glance, my voice flat. "The school's review procedures follow public regulations. There are no private discussions about them." Sue Rowe had no retort left. She stared down at her rice bowl, panic swelling visibly in her eyes. She must have suspected that my early trip to school this morning was far more than just independent studying. Once lunch ended, Su-ro made up an excuse to go buy stationery and rushed out of the house in a hurry. I knew exactly where she was headed, straight to school to check the progress with Teacher Lee, scrambling for a last-ditch rescue effort. Back in my previous life, it was at this exact moment that she'd bribed Teacher Lee with a large sum of money to alter the filing records at the last minute and seize my recommendation spot for herself. But in this lifetime, the die had been cast. The official system was permanently locked, unalterable by anyone. I stayed quietly at home watching television with my parents, my expression serene, without a flicker of excitement that should have accompanied the biggest milestone of my life. My parents, on the other hand, kept glancing toward the front door, clearly waiting for Su-ro to return and bring them fresh updates. 30 minutes later, frantic footsteps echoed at the entrance as the front door flew open. Su-ro was back, yet the gentle, obedient girl who'd left the house was gone. Her face was ashen, her lips drained of all color, her eyes bloodshot, and her whole body trembling faintly. She didn't even notice the stationery bag slip from her grasp and clatter onto the floor. She stood stiff in the doorway, her gaze hollow, as if every ounce of strength had been drained from her body in an instant. Lin Hui shot to her feet and hurried over, overcome with alarm. "Ruru, what's wrong? What happened? Why do you look so awful?" Su Jianming knitted his brows tight, his gaze fixed on Su-ro, filled with concern. This was my mother and father, when I'd won the provincial first prize and fought tooth and nail for the recommendation qualification. They had never fussed over me with such urgent worry, but at the mere sight of Su-ro's pale face, they instantly lost their calm, their extreme favoritism laid bare for all to see. Su-ro slowly lifted her head, her eyes locked unblinkingly on mine, overflowing with disbelief, devastation, jealousy, and boundless resentment. Her voice shook, thick with sobs, her composure completely shattered. "The posting board. It's up." Lin Hui pressed her urgently. "What's the result? Is your sister's name there? Why are you so distraught?" Tears welled in Su-ro's eyes and spilled down her cheeks in an instant. Her voice choked and shrill. "Only Wanwan's name is on the list. The single recommendation spot for Tsinghua and Peking University belongs entirely to her." The words hung in the air. My parents froze for a split second, then instinctively turned to look at me, their gazes tinged with faint surprise and a hidden undercurrent of disappointment. They were actually disappointed that I'd claimed what was rightfully mine. I sat on the sofa, my features impassive, watching Su-ro crumble before my eyes. She deserved every bit of this. Every scheme she'd plotted, every devious plan she'd poured her heart into, had crumbled to nothing in the end. Su-ro stumbled forward to the center of the living room, tears streaming non-stop, her tone steeped in crushing grief and despair. How could this happen? Everything was supposed to go my way. Why isn't there a single opening left for me? I'd gotten everything ready. Overcome by emotion, she'd almost blurted out the truth of her underhanded manipulation. My gaze turned cold, and I spoke up at just the right moment, my tone even and unwavering. "Got what ready?" Recommendation reviews are judged solely on competition awards and student credentials. The entire process is open and fair. What extra preparations could there possibly be? My counter-question jolted the panicking Su-ro back to her senses. Her body stiffened abruptly, and she clamped her mouth shut, a flicker of terror darting across her face. She'd nearly exposed her plot to cheat and steal my spot right in front of everyone. Su-ro quickly reined in her breakdown and rushed to backtrack, scrambling to salvage her story. Too meant I'd prepared myself to accept whatever the outcome was. I just admire Wanwan so deeply, and I can't help feeling bitter about it. With that, she threw herself into Lin Hui's arms and burst into heart-wrenching sobs, wailing as if she'd suffered an unbearable injustice. "Mom, I'm so useless. I've studied so hard, yet my grades still can't compare to Wanwan's. I have no prospects at all. Wanwan earned the recommendation spot effortlessly. She doesn't even need to sit the college entrance exam, with a brilliant future ahead of her. Meanwhile, I have nothing." Lin Hui's heart melted instantly. She wrapped Su-ro tightly in her embrace, patting her back nonstop to soothe her, then shot me a glare full of displeasure and blame. Wan. Look how upset your sister is. It's wonderful news that you got the spot. Yet you can't even be bothered to comfort her. Su Jianming's expression darkened as well, his tone stern. Your sister already struggles with anxiety. Your guaranteed recommendation has only piled more pressure on her. We're family. There's no need to grasp every advantage so tightly. The familiar emotional manipulation had arrived. Right on schedule. They would never acknowledge the countless nights I'd spent buried in practice papers. Never notice my bloodshot eyes or stacks upon stacks of exhausted workbooks. All they saw were Su-ro's tears. All they cared about was her hurt pride, buried in our mother's arms. Su-ro stole a glance at me through her tear-blurred lashes, a faint glint of calculation flickering deep in her eyes. Her crying was not a sign of collapse, it marked the start of a new round of scheming. She planned to use her tears, their biased affection, and the bond of sisterhood to pressure me into backing down, to force me into surrendering the spot of my own free will. I sat up straighter, my gaze clear yet icy as I faced the three of them. This recommendation spot was awarded to me legitimately based on my provincial first prize and the school's official final review. It is my lawful admission qualification. I have not seized anything. I have merely reclaimed what belongs to me. As for my sister's fragile mindset and exam pressure, those are trials everyone must face in their own life. I am under no obligation to sacrifice my future to compensate for her mediocrity. Every word was clear and resolute, without the slightest hint of compromise. The atmosphere in the living room plummeted to freezing point. Su-ro's sobs cut off abruptly, stunned that the obedient, mild-mannered sister who had always yielded to her could utter such cold, unyielding words. My parents' faces darkened completely in an instant. A full-blown family confrontation centered on the recommendation spot had officially begun. I knew this was only the start. Moving forward, they would pull every emotional string they had to coerce me into surrendering. But in this lifetime, I would not yield an inch. As soon as my voice faded, the living room fell so silent that Su-ro's stifled sobs echoed clearly. Mother tightened her hold around her, her gaze fixed on me heavy with bitter disappointment, as if I'd committed an unforgivable crime. Su Jianming stepped half a pace forward. His brows knotted tightly together. Suppressed anger rumbled in his deep voice as he struck the authoritative pose of the family patriarch lecturing a child. Su-wan, how can you say such things? Ro is your elder sister. Blood runs thicker than water in this family. Why draw lines between what's yours and what's hers? You're exceptionally gifted. Even if you give up this recommendation spot, your talent alone will guarantee you entry into a top university through the national college exam. Ro's situation is different. Her academic foundation is weak. If she misses this chance, she'll never get another shortcut to a prestigious school again. I had anticipated this exact line of reasoning long before. In their minds, my natural talent was a disposable bargaining chip, while Su-ro's regrets were the family's top priority to accommodate. Lin, we quickly chimed in, wiping the endless tears streaming down Su-ro's cheeks. Her tone was laced with pleading, every sentence trying to bind me with gratitude for raising me. Wan, Mom knows how hard you've studied all these years. But Ro had a tragic childhood. We've raised her for so long, and we've always felt we owe her something. Have mercy on your sister and give her this spot. Next year you can compete in the contest again and earn another recommendation qualification just as easily. Will you do this for us? Su-ro leaned against Lin Hui's shoulder, glancing up at me surreptitiously. She softened her sobs to a faint whimper, perfectly framing herself as helpless, letting out quiet hiccups every few moments for effect. Little sister, I know you sacrificed countless sleepless nights to earn this opportunity. I never should have let myself crave it for myself. But the thought of sitting in the exam hall staring at endless exam papers keeps me awake all night. If I could have this recommendation spot, I'd be spared the torment of the college entrance exam, and Mom and Dad wouldn't have to worry about my grades anymore. On the surface, she sounded remorseful and ready to back down. Yet every word subtly pressured me to surrender voluntarily. She reduced her scheme to mere insecurity, never once mentioning how she'd secretly visited teachers and attempted to tamper with official records. My fingers hanging at my sides curled gently. Yet no emotion stirred within me. The endless grievances of my past life had long worn away every trace of softness I'd once held for this family. I slowly lifted my eyes, sweeping first over my father, then my mother, and finally landing on Sue Rowe, who put on a pitiful show. My tone was steady, logical, and devoid of any sentiment. First, the provincial first prize recommendation quota for the competition is only awarded once a year. The assessment standards shift annually, so there is no guarantee I would qualify again next year. If I forfeit this spot, I will waste an entire year, bearing all the risks alone. Second, this recommendation quota is tied exclusively to my student file, competition award records, and facial verification data. The Academic Affairs Office system finalized all archiving this morning. New information can be altered or transferred. I cannot simply give the spot away even if I wanted to. The school enforces strict official admission oversight, and private exchanges of quotas are impossible. Su Jianming's face darkened. He refused to believe official rules could shatter their hopes, dismissing my words as deliberate excuses to avoid cooperating. Rules are nothing but arbitrary school restrictions. If you speak nicely to your head teacher and the academic affairs staff, we can even visit their offices to beg for leniency. With enough sincere requests, they will surely make an exception. The school won't turn a blind eye to our family's hardship. Seizing on her father's words, Sue Rowe amplified her weeping, her shoulders shaking violently. Dad, don't force little sister. If the formalities truly cannot be changed, then this opportunity was never meant for me. I shouldn't have indulged such foolish hopes and caused conflict between you, Mom, and my sister. It's all my fault. Though she claimed to back off, a flicker of expectation lingered in her eyes. She still waited for my parents to pressure me into negotiating with the school, hoping to exploit loopholes in the regulations. Watching Sue Rowe act so considerate, Lin Huey's bias tilted fully toward her. She spun around to glare at me, her voice sharp with accusation. Look how thoughtful your sister is. Then look at you, you have no regard for family bonds at all. Growing up, we always let Row have the best food and toys first. We never treated you unfairly for a single moment. Now we simply ask you to help your sister once, yet you hide behind rules to brush us off. Do you even care about this family? Never treated me unfairly, I echoed softly. My voice was quiet, yet it brought the family's argument to an abrupt halt. Since we were small, every single thing sister wanted was hers immediately. When I ranked first in the entire grade, you only warned me not to get conceited, then turned to comfort her, who scored dead last. Even while I prepared for this competition, when I asked for an advanced exercise workbook, you claimed money was tight, but you bought her the latest smartphone right afterward. I never made a fuss over these small slights, but that does not mean I fail to see your unequal treatment. This honest observation laid bare their selfish partiality. A flicker of panic crossed Su Jianming's face before he forced himself to regain composure. Row is frail and emotionally sensitive. It's only natural we care for her extra, as our biological daughter. You ought to be more understanding and forgiving. Forgiveness has its limits. I pulled the official final review receipt I'd printed at the Academic Affairs Office that morning out of my school bag and laid it flat on the coffee table. Clear print marked facial verification logs, my handwritten signature block, and a bold red note stating all archived data was uneditable. This documents every procedure I completed in person at the school today. It explicitly states all third-party signatures and voluntary waiver applications are invalid. If forged documents used to seize a recommendation quota are uncovered, the offender's eligibility to sit the college entrance exam for the entire year will be revoked, and a permanent disciplinary mark will be added to their personal academic file. I paused deliberately here, fixing my gaze directly on Sue Rowe. Sue Rowe jolted violently, all color draining from her face in an instant. Her carefully crafted vulnerable facade crumbled completely. Overtaken by stark terror, she knew she had visited Teacher Lee a few days prior and submitted a forged waiver supposedly signed by me. If the school launched an official investigation, every underhanded move she'd made would be exposed to everyone. Lin Hui failed to grasp the severe consequences outlined on the receipt. She picked up the paper and skimmed it hastily, still refusing to give up hope. It's just a form slip, surely the repercussions aren't this extreme. Ro only wanted to secure a future for herself. Even if we speak with the school staff, they wouldn't punish her this harshly. Mom. You might want to ask sister what paperwork she handed Teacher Lee when she visited the academic affairs office alone 2 days ago, I said evenly. Ro convulsed with shock, waving her hands frantically, her voice cracking with alarm. I didn't do anything. I only went to ask about the recommendation process and submitted no documents at all. Little sister, don't slander me out of nowhere. Slander or truth? The Academic Affairs Office retains full physical archives of all submissions, which can be pulled and cross-checked at any time. My tone remained calm, yet every word carried unshakable certainty. If you insist on dragging this before the school for a full investigation, whoever forged my signature to steal this quota will face revoked exam eligibility and a permanent disciplinary record. I don't need to spell out who that will be. Su Jianming finally realized the situation was far graver than he'd imagined, watching Ro panic and avoid eye contact. Unease stirred in his chest, and he stopped pressuring me relentlessly. Ro, is what your sister's saying true? Did you secretly hand other documents to a teacher? Ro bit down hard on her lower lip as tears flooded her eyes. But she dared not answer the question directly. She simply buried her face and sobbed, using silence to cover up her misdeeds. Seeing her elder daughter collapse into tears, Lin Hui's lingering doubts faded, and she instinctively shielded Ro by pulling her behind her back. She spoke sharply to me, even if Ro acted foolishly out of desperation. It was only a momentary lapse of judgment. You're her little sister, how can you threaten her with this? Must we be so cruel to one another as family? I am threatening no one. I am merely laying out the genuine consequences for everyone to see. I retrieved the receipt from the coffee table, folded it neatly, and placed it back into my bag. Ownership of the recommendation quota is final. I will not surrender it voluntarily, nor will I cooperate with any illegal requests you make of the school. If you insist on causing a scene with administrators, I will not be the one bearing all the resulting penalties. With that, I ignored the stifling, deadlocked atmosphere filling the room, stood up, and walked to my bedroom. I closed the door behind me, shutting out all the gazes filled with blame, sorrow, and resentment. Soon muted arguing between my parents seeped through the door, interwoven with Ro's intermittent weeping. They finally understood there was no room left to reverse the outcome, and every secret scheme Ro had plotted had already planted a disaster that could ruin her own future. I leaned back against the wooden door, my mind utterly clear.